All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. May the Lord bless you. Just coming back with a real talk video as we thank the good Lord for so much. This is my part 2 video, and my title says, I don't want to stir too long. I don't want to stir too long. I want to talk about something I know all of us deal with at times. Fellas, when we out and about, you see beautiful women. You see tight clothes. You see tight mini skirts. You see breasts all out. You see everything nowadays in the world, in the club. Oh, let me say that right. In the church too. Yes. Even in the house of God now, women are dressing so revealing. Not trying to down you women in no kind of way, but just to speak real in this video. And then women, you see that man that's attracting to you. He's pleasing to your eyes. He's everything you look for, so you find yourself staring. Now, I'm talking about staring because I'm going back to David. This is the part 2 of David and Bathsheba. Because a lot of times we so quick to holler out, ain't nothing wrong with looking. But really, looking in these eyes is what's done got us in a whole lot of trouble. If we were just to be honest. I was just talking to my big brother K-Ray, and K-Ray gave me this title. I could say we thought of this title together of this video because we was talking about David and Bathsheba and how as men, how we lust, how we look, how we see a woman and we want to get with them. Well, this is the same problem David had. There is nothing new under the sun. So when you go back to David and Bathsheba, think about this. The eyes, something we fight with so tough, right? The eyes. It's when we get to looking with these eyes, the eyes can be a killer. Now remember in the first video, part 1, I talked about David committing adultery and murder with Bathsheba. A lot of us men right now are still getting in trouble because we looking with these eyes. We thinking with the wrong head. We are all messed up because we are so fascinated off of, oh, she fine over there. She's sexy. Ooh, look at her, look at her, look at her. 36, 24, 36. She's a brick house. I got to have her. But ain't nothing wrong with looking. Or is it something really wrong with looking? I don't want to stare too long. I don't want to stare too long. Now, put yourself, fellas, put yourselves in David's situation. How many of us would have done the same thing that David done? How many of us are committing adultery right now? How many of us have already messed up and sinned in our mind today? How many of us went to the store earlier, or we was at work or somewhere where we had to go say, Lord, forgive me because I stared too long. Lord, forgive me for them thoughts that I want to do. That woman, she keep looking at me. I keep looking at her. I know I'm married, Lord. I know she ain't married, but Lord, I don't know. I don't know if I can be able to hold out. How many of us could have walked away? Or we would have done the same thing as David done. I don't want to stare too long. Just like the serpent was pleasing to Eve's eyes. The video we talked about the other day. What really went on in the garden that most people don't want to talk about. When it comes to sex, seems like it always starts in your mind, don't it? And then you think about it. It started with these eyes also. Because you saw something that you wanted. You wanted to feel. You wanted to touch. You wanted to lay down with. Bathsheba had to be beautiful, like the Bible said. She had to be awesome. She had to be sexy. And once again, what God said He created was good. And fellas, we know we can look at these women and say, oh yes, they look good. They beautiful. As Brandon Mack will say, beautiful. Bathsheba had David's attention. She was bathing. Now, thank y'all for listening to my introduction. Let me move on into this. David saw her. David was ready to get up in her immediately from the first time he saw her. Oh yeah, I'm king. King can have anybody he want. He ain't care that woman was married or not. Fellas, ain't we the same way a lot of times? What's wrong with us? Women, you didn't care that man was married. I'm thinking about this show Mary Jane right now. Everybody, I want to be Mary Jane. I want to be Mary Jane. Mary Jane having an affair with a married man. Mary Jane really just messed up in her mind. When I thought about that show, and for some reason, I went back to thinking about King David, because he committed adultery as well. Them eyes. Let me share y'all. Let me share with y'all something my big brother PP Drawing said on her a while back, because we was talking about in the video about the haughty eyes that the Bible speaks of. PP Drawings put it like this. He said, Brother JT, we gonna see some things that look good to us. That's automatic. Ain't no way around it. We're gonna see it. He said, but then it's what we do after what we see it that get us in trouble. Brother PP Drawing said, first we see, and then we really look. PP Drawing said, then we stir. Then we glare. Then we talk. There come the conversation. And then after we talking, then we touch. We enter in. We sin. He said, and then the consequences is then we die. And then if we ain't careful, we burn. That's the whole plan Satan got against us. But PP Jordan said, but somewhere down that line, we have to stop before we mess up. He said it's better to stop at that we part. That's very powerful. David saw. He looked as he was on the rooftop. He was looking a little too long. And look turned into a stare. He started staring at Bathsheba. Look at that woman bathing. And then he glared. Then he sent the message through the messengers, didn't he? So he talked, he conversated, and next thing you know, he wound up going up in her. He sinned. Y'all know the rest of that story. David had this same problem. Staring. But we still say, ain't nothing wrong. But we have to understand, we're going to look. It's in our nature. I know I do. I'm not in a relationship at the moment like I used to be, but I would tell my old lady at the time, you might as well get used to me looking. Because how can you not see what you see nowadays? When these women walking in front of you, what you going, every time you going to do this? Oh, good. No. You're going to look. I'm a minister of music in church. And what I see in church, it don't even make sense. Why she got that on? She know that's too tight. She's showing all this. Yes, she fine. She walking around at offering time. Look at her. Yeah, I'm looking. I ain't dead. And I mean all this out of love. And women, this is not to down none of y'all, but too many of y'all are going out too revealing. And to me, any woman that got to show that much attention, something wrong with her. A real man can see your body regardless. Real man gonna look at your heart also. But we get to staring, we get to glaring, we get to touching and laying down. That was my problem for a while. So what do, K-Ray? Like we said as we spoke earlier, we fight. We kill this flesh daily. Every day. It ain't a day go by I don't see something. that's very pleasing to my eyes. I stare too long. A lot of times I do. I have thoughts. Well, JT, you a man of God, man. You don't spare me with that. David was a man after God's own heart. He stirred. Now, I ain't done what David done, but I ain't no better than David either. I done had my share of sinning, sleeping around. I ain't never committed adultery. But in the eyes of the Lord, everybody I laid down with, that was pretty much my wife. See, we don't want to teach the realness of these scriptures. Even though this is a real talk video, I'm trying to keep it on the real talk side, but it always made me want to go back and open up scriptures. But I'm gonna leave the scriptures out in this video. What we gotta learn, y'all, is that the flesh is weak. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, and we cannot give into this. We can't do it on our own. We have to die to it. So when I look at the world, I have to say this because I get so sick and tired of these religious folk just talking about people in the world like the church is all that perfect. Let me break it down like this as we close out this video. You got people who go to church just to get somebody. You got women in the congregation who don't care that the pastor is married. I ain't talking about all women. You got women looking at some of the minister of music and musicians. You got old deacons looking at some of the women in church. You got men going to church trying to see who else they can sleep with in the choir stand. So if you're going to tell the truth and talk about the world, talk about the church too. And open up some of these doors in these churches and realize they are falling just like the ones in the world that they talking about. And I mean this out of the utmost respect and out of love. It is not just in the world where these things are happening at. Every time you look around, another preacher have fallen, committing adultery, another deacon sleeping around, another minister of music being sat down. We know what the world is doing also. And we know what the church is doing. But this thing I'm talking about now, we must check ourselves. We got to check ourselves. You can't control it on your own. In the club, check it out. Let me talk about what I know. Especially when I was faithful to the club. Way more faithful to the club than I was faithful to the church. And then I realized that the church wasn't all that better than the club was. Why? Same thing I saw in the club, I saw in the church. The women with the thongs on in the club, the tight skirts, can barely walk, breasts all out, talking crazy, fine as I don't know what. Same ones I saw in the church. Some of them was on the praise team, in the choir stand. They went to church the same way they left the club. Tight clothes on, breast all out, thongs on, in the club, in the church. Cut on your TV, there it is. In the commercials, there it is. In the movies, there it is. On the internet, there it is. On your cell phone, there it is. It's all over. We stern too long. When I look at, going back to David, I'm closing now for sure. When I look at his son, Solomon, which was born after David's other son died, which he lost with Bathsheba, he had another son by the name of Solomon, who looked, he stared, he glared, he talked, then he touched. He had sex with some strange women he shouldn't have been messing with, who turned his heart from the Lord. But we say ain't nothing wrong with looking. How many of us have said ain't nothing wrong with looking, but looking is what got us in trouble? But JT is supposed to go down that way. I seen her at the club, man, or I met her in the store, man, and man, you should have saw what she had on. I was looking. Yeah, you was looking. Let's close now, y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day, and remember this. Everything that look good to you ain't always good for you. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day.